The information provided in this video regarding automotive specifications, release dates, pricing, and performance metrics is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The automotive industry is subject to rapid changes, supply chain fluctuations, and manufacturer pivots. None of the content herein constitutes financial, investment, or legal advice regarding the purchase or lease of a motor vehicle. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own independent research, consult with certified automotive professionals, and review official manufacturer documentation before making any significant financial commitments. Past performance of automotive brands is not a guarantee of future reliability or resale value. The internal combustion engine, the very heartbeat of the American road for over a century, is not just dying. It is being systematically dismantled in favor of a future that many of you are not prepared for. Right now, in the hidden R&D facilities of Detroit, Stuttgart, and Silicon Valley, the rules of what a car actually is are being rewritten. We are entering 2026, a year that historians will likely look back on as the great automotive pivot. If you think the shift to electric was just a passing fad or a niche market for early adopters, the data tells a much more aggressive story. In the next 12 months, we are going to see the launch of vehicles that possess more computing power than the most advanced fighter jets of the previous decade. We are seeing the return of iconic nameplates that were left for dead, reborn with technology that feels like it was ripped straight out of a science fiction novel. But here is the reality that no dealership wants to tell you. Half of the cars being hyped right now will likely face massive software delays, and the other half might be obsolete before you even finish your 3-year lease. By the time we reach the end of this deep dive, you will understand exactly which manufacturers are actually delivering on their technological promises and which ones are simply atmospheric marketing. We are pulling back the curtain on the engineering breakthroughs, the controversial design shifts, and the high-stakes power struggles happening behind the scenes of 2026's most anticipated releases. For the American consumer, the problem today is no longer a lack of choice. It is a paralyzing surplus of complexity. You are standing at a crossroads where you have to decide between the legacy reliability of a gasoline engine and the staggering instant torque of a solid-state battery future. This video solves that paralysis. By the end of this masterclass, you will have a comprehensive roadmap of the 2026 automotive landscape. You will know exactly how the new federal emission standards are forcing brands like Toyota and Ford to cannibalize their bestsellers. You will understand why the integration of artificial intelligence into the dashboard is about to change your insurance premiums forever. Most importantly, you will be able to distinguish between a genuine mechanical masterpiece and a rolling data collection device disguised as a luxury SUV. This is not just a list of cars. This is your strategic guide to navigating the most volatile year in automotive history. To understand why 2026 is so pivotal, we have to look at the convergence of 3 massive industry shifts: the maturation of software-defined vehicles, the second generation of dedicated EV platforms, and the radical hybridization of the American truck market. For decades, a car was a mechanical object that stayed the same from the day you drove it off the lot. In 2026, a car is a living piece of software. Manufacturers are now moving toward a hardware-agnostic model, where the physical frame of the vehicle is secondary to the operating system running the powertrain. We are seeing companies like Rivian and Lucid pushing the boundaries of efficiency, while legacy giants like General Motors are betting billions on their Ultium platforms to finally achieve scale. Take, for example, the projected launch of the next-generation electric flagship from brands that once ridiculed the technology. We are seeing historical trends where luxury buyers are no longer asking about horsepower. They are asking about thermal management and kilowatt-hour density. The 2026 model year is the first time we will see the widespread implementation of 800-volt architecture across mid-range vehicles, not just 6-figure supercars. This means charging times that finally rival the time it takes to fill a tank of gas. But with this speed comes a new set of challenges regarding infrastructure and battery degradation that every potential buyer needs to calculate. We must also address the elephant in the room: the skyrocketing cost of entry. The average price of a new vehicle in the United States has reached levels that were unthinkable a decade ago. In 2026, we are seeing a divergence in the market. On one side, you have the ultra-luxury segment where cars are becoming appreciating assets in rolling galleries of carbon fiber and sustainable textiles. On the other side, there is a desperate scramble to produce an affordable, high-utility vehicle that fits the budget of the average American household. We will be examining the potential outcomes of this price war. and which brands are successfully trimming the fat without sacrificing the safety standards that U.S. buyers demand. Consider the case study of the midsize SUV segment, the literal backbone of American suburban life. For years, the formula was simple: 3 rows, a V6 engine, and enough cup holders to satisfy a small army. In 2026, that formula is being incinerated. We are seeing the rise of the mega hybrid, vehicles that utilize small, high-efficiency turbocharged engines paired with massive battery buffers to provide 50 or 60 miles of pure electric range before a single drop of gasoline is burned. This isn't just about saving money at the pump. It's about a fundamental shift in how we perceive range anxiety. We will go deep into the engineering of these new powertrains, explaining how dual motor setups are providing torque vectoring capabilities that were once reserved for track-focused sports cars. Furthermore, we cannot ignore the aesthetic revolution. The wind tunnel is now the primary designer of the modern American car. As manufacturers chase every possible point of aerodynamic efficiency to meet stringent fleet-wide mileage requirements, we are seeing a homogenization of shape. However, 2026 is the year where brands are fighting back against the jelly bean look. We are seeing the re-emergence of sharp, brutalist lines and retrofuturism. We will analyze how designers are using light as a primary branding tool, moving away from chrome accents and toward intricate LED signatures that define a vehicle's identity from a mile away. The stakes have never been higher for the manufacturers. One botched software rollout can lead to a multi-billion-dollar recall and a permanent stain on a brand's reputation. We saw this with the early struggles of several major EV launches in the mid-2020s. Now, in 2026, those lessons have been learned, or at least that is what the marketing departments want you to believe. We are going to examine the real-world reliability data of these new systems. We will look at how the integration of Level 3 autonomous driving features is being handled across different states, and what that means for your daily commute. In this first part of our 10-part series, we are setting the stage for a granular vehicle-by-vehicle breakdown. We are not just looking at the spec sheets, we are looking at the supply chains, the mineral rights for the batteries, the software architecture, and the historical reliability of the manufacturers involved. Whether you are a die-hard gearhead who bleeds gasoline or a tech enthusiast looking for the ultimate mobile device, the 2026 lineup has something that will either thrill you or deeply concern you. The era of the boring car is over. Every vehicle hitting the showroom floor in 2026 is a statement of intent. It is a gamble on the future of mobility. By staying with us through this entire deep dive, you will have the clarity needed to navigate this transition. You will be the most informed person in the room when the conversation turns to the future of the American road. We are about to break down the first of the 10 most influential vehicles of 2026, and the implications of this first entry will ripple through every other car on this list. Prepare yourself. The automotive landscape is about to shift under your feet. To understand the gravity of 2026, we have to look at a ghost that has officially returned to haunt the modern automotive establishment. Imagine if a legendary nameplate, dormant for nearly half a century, suddenly reappeared not just as a nostalgia act, but as a fully realized multi-billion-dollar offensive against the current kings of the off-road market. That is exactly what is happening with Scout Motors. For those who do not follow the deep lore of American iron, Scout was the original rugged utility vehicle produced by International Harvester, predating the modern SUV craze by decades. Now in 2026, the Scout Traveler SUV and the Scout Terra pickup truck are hitting the production lines in South Carolina, and they represent the most significant gamble in the history of the Volkswagen Group's North American strategy. What makes the Scout launch a case study in market disruption is its refusal to follow the typical electric vehicle playbook. While many manufacturers are chasing aerodynamic blobs, Scout has leaned into a brutalist, boxy silhouette that screams utility. But the real masterstroke, and the reason why this vehicle is the most talked about release of 2026, is the Harvester system. Historical trends in the US market showed that even as charging infrastructure improved, a significant portion of the truck-buying public remained terrified of being stranded in the middle of a national park or a remote work site. Scout's answer was not just a bigger battery, but a sophisticated energy management solution called the Harvester Range Extender. Unlike a traditional plug-in hybrid where the engine often drives the wheels, the Scout system uses a small, high-efficiency gasoline generator solely to keep the battery topped up. This allows for a projected total range of over 500 miles, solving the one problem that has kept the Ford F-150 Lightning and the Rivian R1T from total market dominance. Let's look at the step-by-step engineering that defines these vehicles. The The Scout Traveler and Terra are built on an entirely new dedicated body-on-frame platform. This is not a modified car chassis. It features a solid rear axle, front and rear mechanical locking differentials, and a suspension system designed for actual rock crawling. For the American buyer, this signifies a return to mechanical honesty. In an era where every control is buried in a touchscreen, Scout made a controversial but widely praised decision to include tactile, physical buttons and knobs for the most essential functions. They recognize that when you are wearing work gloves or navigating a bumpy trail, a flat glass screen is a liability, not a luxury. The pricing strategy is equally aggressive. With a starting point targeted under $60,000 before federal incentives, Scout is positioning itself directly in the crosshairs of the Jeep Wrangler and the Ford Bronco. They are leveraging a direct-to-consumer sales model, bypassing the traditional dealership friction that has frustrated buyers for years. This approach allows them to control the pricing and the service experience, a move that will likely result in a potential outcome of high brand loyalty if they can manage the initial quality control. The manufacturing facility in South Carolina is a $2 billion statement of intent, capable of producing 200,000 units a year. This is not a niche project. It is a full-scale assault on the American heartland. But while Scout is looking to the dirt, another icon is returning to the asphalt to solve a very different problem. For the last 20 years, the American enthusiast market has been starved for an affordable, stylish coupe that does not require a six-figure salary to maintain. Enter the 2026 Honda Prelude. When Honda first teased the return of this nameplate, the purists were skeptical. They feared it would be a watered-down crossover using a famous name. Instead, Honda has delivered a low-slung, high-tech hybrid coupe that serves as a bridge between the analog past and the electrified future. The 2026 Prelude is built on a heavily modified version of the chassis found in the world-class Civic Type R. This means it inherits the dual-axis strut front suspension that virtually eliminates torque steer, a common plague of high-performance front-wheel drive cars. Under the hood, however, is where things get interesting. Honda opted for a dual-motor hybrid system paired with a 2.0-liter Atkinson cycle four-cylinder engine. The combined output is approximately 200 horsepower, but in a world obsessed with 0 to 60 times, Honda is focusing on a different metric: driver engagement. They have introduced a system called S+ Shift, which uses software to simulate the gear change feel of a traditional dual-clutch transmission. While it is technically a direct drive system, the auditory and physical feedback provided to the driver is designed to mimic the visceral experience of rowing through gears. The Prelude solves a specific problem for the 2026 buyer: the rising cost of fun. By utilizing a hybrid powertrain, the Prelude is projected to achieve nearly 50 miles per gallon in city driving, yet it offers the handling dynamics of a dedicated sports car. It is a vehicle that acknowledges the reality of high fuel prices and insurance premiums without asking the driver to sacrifice their soul. We are seeing a case study in how a legacy manufacturer can reinvent a classic formula using modern efficiency. The interior is a masterclass in ergonomics, featuring a 10.2-inch digital cluster and a 9-inch center display that integrates Google built-in, allowing for seamless navigation and media control without the clunkiness of older infotainment systems. The significance of the Prelude's return goes beyond its spec sheet. It signals that Honda believes there is still a market for the emotional purchase. In an industry that has become obsessed with three-row SUVs and utilitarian transport, the Prelude is a reminder that driving can be a recreational activity. It is positioned to compete with the Toyota GR86 and the Subaru BRZ, but with a level of refinement and daily driver practicality that those more hardcore sports cars lack. As we move deeper into this list, we see a pattern emerging for 2026. The manufacturers that are winning the most attention are the ones blending heritage with radical new powertrains. We are seeing a move away from the experimental phase of the early 2020s and into a period of refinement. But while Scout and Honda are looking backward for inspiration, the next vehicle on our list is looking so far forward that it might actually alienate its most loyal fan base. We are about to dive into the most controversial redesign of the decade, a German icon that has completely abandoned its traditional architecture to embrace a vision of the future that includes panoramic windshield displays and bidirectional home charging. If you think you know what a luxury SUV is supposed to be, the next entry in this series is going to challenge every assumption you have about brand identity and technological integration. The shift we are seeing in the luxury segment is not just a change in fuel. It is a change in the very definition of what it means to own a premium vehicle in America. In the next part, we will explore how this shift is causing a civil war within one of the world's most prestigious boardrooms. The tension inside the BMW headquarters in Munich throughout the development of the new E-Class was not merely a matter of engineering. It was a fundamental struggle for the soul of the company. On one side, you had the traditionalists who believed that the ultimate driving machine was defined by the mechanical connection between the driver, the steering rack, and the internal combustion engine. On the other side, a new guard argued that in 2026, the driving experience would be defined by silicon, software, and an entirely new way of interacting with a vehicle. This internal friction has resulted in the 2026 BMW 9/3, a vehicle that represents the most radical departure from heritage in the brand's 100-year history. This is not just another electric SUV. It is the physical manifestation of a company betting its entire future on a single architectural leap. When you sit in the driver's seat of the 2026 9/3, the first thing you notice is what is missing. There is no traditional gauge cluster behind the steering wheel. Instead, BMW has introduced panoramic vision, a projection system that spans the entire width of the lower windshield. It is a 43.3-inch display that puts vital information like speed, navigation, and battery status directly in the driver's line of sight, but without the bulk of a physical screen. Imagine if you are driving through a crowded downtown area like Chicago or Seattle. Instead of glancing down at a center screen, your navigation prompts appear as augmented reality overlays that seem to float on the road ahead of you. This is managed by what BMW calls their superbrains, for high-performance computers that handle everything from driving dynamics to infotainment with a processing power that dwarfs anything seen in previous generations. The engineering under the skin is equally transformative. The 9/3 utilizes 6th-generation eDrive technology, which moves away from prismatic cells to new cylindrical battery cells. This change alone has allowed BMW to increase energy density by 20% and improve charging speeds by 30%. For the American consumer, this translates to a potential outcome of over 500 miles of range on a single charge in its most efficient configuration. But the real game-changer is the 800-volt architecture. In 2026, time is the ultimate luxury, and the 9/3 addresses this by supporting 400 kilowatt DC fast charging. If you find a compatible high-speed charger along the I-95 corridor, you can add over 230 miles of range in just 10 minutes. This effectively narrows the gap between an electric charging stop and a traditional gasoline fill-up to a negligible margin. However, the most controversial aspect of this vehicle is the heart of joy. This is the central control unit for all driving dynamics. In historical trends, BMWs were tuned through mechanical adjustments to the suspension and steering geometry. In the 9/3, the Heart of Joy uses software to manage the interaction between the dual-motor all-wheel drive system and the electronic dampers in real time. It can shuffle torque between the front and rear axles faster than a human can blink, theoretically providing the same level of precision and feedback that made the 3 Series a legend. But for the purists, the question remains: can software truly replicate the visceral feel of a mechanical limited-slip differential? Case studies of early test drives suggest that while the feeling is different, the performance metrics are undeniable, with a 0 to 60 time of 4.9 seconds that feels much faster due to the instant delivery of 645 Nm of torque. While BMW is trying to reinvent the driving experience through software, Mercedes-Benz has taken a different approach with an icon that has refused to change its exterior for nearly 5 decades. The 2026 Mercedes-Benz G580 with EQ technology, more commonly known as the electric G-Wagon, is a masterclass in how to modernize a legend without losing its identity. Imagine if you are an enthusiast named Jordan living in Denver, Colorado. You want the status and the off-road capability of a G-Wagon, but you are tired of the 13 miles per gallon and the sluggish response of a heavy internal combustion engine at high altitudes. The electric G-Wagon solves this by replacing the V8 with 4 independent electric motors, one at each wheel. This quad-motor setup allows for maneuvers that were previously impossible for a production vehicle. The most famous of these is the G-turn, a tank turn where the vehicle can rotate 720 degrees on its own axis on loose surfaces. But the practical application is even more impressive. Because each motor can be controlled independently, the G580 possesses a level of torque vectoring that makes traditional mechanical locking differentials look primitive. It can send exactly the right amount of power to the wheel with the most traction, allowing it to crawl up 100% grades with a silence that is almost eerie. To protect the massive 116 kilowatt-hour battery during these adventures, Mercedes has encased it in a carbon fiber reinforced underbody shield that can support the entire weight of the vehicle if it high centers on a rock. Technologically, the G580 is also a pioneer in battery chemistry. It is one of the first production vehicles to utilize silicon anode technology, developed in partnership with Sila Nanotechnologies. This allows for higher energy density in a smaller footprint, which was essential given the G-Wagon's ladder frame constraints. While the boxy aerodynamics still limit the highway range to roughly 240 miles in real-world US conditions, the 200 kilowatt DC fast charging ensures that it remains viable for weekend trips. Inside, the MBUX infotainment system has been updated with an off-road cockpit that includes a transparent hood feature. Using cameras mounted in the grille, the center screen displays a virtual view of what is directly under the front of the vehicle, allowing you to navigate jagged rocks or deep ruts without a spotter. The pricing for these two German titans reflects their position at the top of the food chain. The BMW 9.3 is expected to start around $110,000, while the electric G-Wagon will likely command a premium closer to $160,000. These are not vehicles for the masses. They are the experimental labs for the technologies that will eventually trickle down to every car in the American market. They represent two different philosophies of luxury. One that seeks to erase the past and start from a blank digital sheet, and another that seeks to preserve a legacy through overwhelming engineering force. But as impressive as these luxury SUVs are, they are still playing in a space that is defined by established brands. The real disruption in 2026 is coming from a sector that most people have ignored for years. While the Germans are fighting over the high-end suburban market, a new battle is brewing in the heart of the American workforce. We are seeing the arrival of a vehicle that aims to do for the tradesman what the iPhone did for the office worker. This next entry on our list is a truck that can power an entire job site for 3 days on a single charge, features a modular bed system that can be swapped in minutes, and possesses a towing capacity that is causing the Big Three in Detroit to hold emergency meetings. In the next part, we are going to dive into the specifications of the most capable work vehicle ever built, and why its arrival might signify the end of the traditional diesel heavy-duty era. The heavy-duty market is about to be electrified in a way that no one saw coming, and the data suggests that the results will be nothing short of revolutionary for the American economy. To understand why the 2026 truck market is the most volatile segment in the automotive world, you have to look past the chrome grilles and into the electrical architecture. For a century, the American truck was defined by its displacement and its ability to burn diesel under heavy load. But as we move through 2026, we are witnessing the emergence of a new species, the range-extended electric truck. This is the industry's answer to the cold, hard data that showed that while 75% of truck owners want to go electric for the torque and lower maintenance, nearly 90% of them are terrified of towing a trailer into a headwind with a battery-only setup. The case study that is currently sending shockwaves through Detroit is the 2026 Ram 1500 Ramcharger. This is not a traditional hybrid, and it is certainly not a standard EV. Imagine a contractor named Elias in 2026, working a job site in rural Montana. He needs to tow 10,000 pounds of equipment 200 miles to a remote site that has no charging infrastructure. In a standard electric truck, Elias would be looking at a potential outcome of being stranded or spending hours at a slow charger. The Ramcharger solves this by using a 92 kilowatt-hour battery pack paired with dual electric motors, but with a critical twist: a 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 engine that acts exclusively as an onboard 130 kilowatt generator. The engineering details here are staggering. The engine has no mechanical link to the wheels. Its only job is to provide a constant flow of electrons to the motors or the battery. This configuration allows for a targeted total range of 690 miles. Think about that number. That is more than almost any internal combustion truck on the road today. It offers the instant 663 horsepower punch of an electric vehicle, launching this 6,000-pound beast to 60 miles per hour in just 4.4 seconds, without ever requiring Elias to plug it in if he doesn't want to. It is a historical trend reversal where the gasoline engine has been demoted to a supporting role, essentially acting as a portable power plant for a high-performance electric drivetrain. But 2026 isn't just about range. It is about the truck becoming a mobile utility hub. This is where the 2026 Chevrolet Silverado EV RST and its work truck variants are redefining the job site. Historically, a contractor had to lug around heavy, noisy gasoline generators to power saws, drills, and compressors. The Silverado EV eliminates this need with its power-based system. In the 2026 model, We are seeing up to 10.2 kilowatts of offboard power available through 11 different outlets. This includes a 240-volt outlet in the bed that can power a heavy-duty welder, or even another electric vehicle. Let's look at the step-by-step data on the Silverado's 2026 updates. Chevrolet has pushed the envelope of battery density, offering a GM-estimated 493 miles of range on the 8WT trim. But the real masterclass in utility is the Multiflex midgate. Imagine if you need to haul 11-foot-long pipes. Normally, you'd need a dedicated long bed truck or a trailer. The Silverado EV allows you to fold down the entire back wall of the cab, extending the 5-foot 11-inch bed into the interior of the truck. It turns a lifestyle vehicle into a specialized hauling machine in under 60 seconds. Furthermore, the 2026 model year marks the debut of the Silverado EV Trail Boss, which brings a 2-inch factory lift and 35-inch all-terrain tires to the electric platform, proving that the move to electrification does not mean a retreat from the mud. While GM and Ram are fighting for the top spot, the 2026 Ford F-150 Lightning is undergoing its own strategic evolution. Ford recognized that the early adopters had already bought in, and to capture the mass market in 2026, they had to simplify. For the 2026 model year, Ford has discontinued the smaller 98 kilowatt-hour battery entirely. Every Lightning, from the Fleet Focus Pro to the high-end Platinum, now comes standard with the 123 kilowatt-hour extended range battery. This is a massive shift in value proposition. Ford is betting that by standardizing the larger battery, they can achieve economies of scale that will allow them to keep the starting price of the STX and Flash trims competitive with high-end gasoline trucks. The 2026 Lightning also introduces the STX trim, an adventure-ready model that slots between the work truck and the luxury trims. It features a rear electronic locking differential, a crucial piece of mechanical hardware that many early electric trucks lacked. Why does this matter? Imagine you are at a boat ramp in Florida, the surface is slick with algae, and you are trying to pull a 7,000-pound boat out of the water. Even with electric all-wheel drive, having a physical lock on the rear axle provides a level of low-speed traction that software alone sometimes struggles to replicate. Ford's inclusion of this feature in 2026 shows they are listening to the specific, high-stakes needs of American truck owners. We also have to discuss the 2026 GMC Sierra EV Denali Edition 1. This vehicle represents the absolute ceiling of what a truck can be in 2026. It utilizes the same Ultium platform as the Silverado, but adds a layer of sophistication that targets the luxury buyer who happens to need a bed. The standout feature for 2026 is the refined crab walk system. Using four-wheel steering, the truck can move diagonally at low speeds. Imagine you are navigating a tight construction site or a crowded parking lot in downtown Dallas. A truck of this size would normally require a 5-point turn. With crab walk, you can essentially slide the vehicle sideways into a gap. This is paired with an 800-volt charging architecture that allows the Sierra EV to add 100 miles of range in just 10 minutes at a 350 kilowatt fast charger. However, the traditionalists aren't being left behind entirely. The 2026 Toyota Tundra iForce Max is doubling down on its hybrid strategy. Toyota has resisted the urge to go fully electric with the Tundra, instead refining their 437 horsepower, twin-turbo V6 hybrid system. For 2026, they have standardized the 32.2-gallon fuel tank across all grades, addressing the one complaint long-distance towers had about the previous generation. They've also introduced ISO dynamic seats on the TRD Pro, which use internal shock absorbers to keep the driver stable, while the truck is bouncing over rough terrain at 50 miles per hour. It's a mechanical solution to a physical problem, reminding us that sometimes the best tech isn't digital. What we are seeing in 2026 is a divergence of philosophies. Ram is betting on the generator hybrid, GM is betting on pure battery massive range, Ford is betting on standardized value, and Toyota is betting on the perfected hybrid. The potential outcomes of these different paths will dictate which of these companies survives the next decade of the American energy transition. But as the trucks get bigger and more powerful, another segment of the market is heading in the opposite direction. While most people are looking at these 7,000-pound behemoths, a silent revolution is happening in the world of the affordable high-performance sedan. One of the most legendary Japanese performance cars is being reborn for 2026, and it isn't following any of the rules we've just discussed. It is smaller, lighter, and uses a technology that many thought was dead and buried. In the next part, we are going to look at the return of a rotary-powered icon and how it plans to steal the spotlight from the heavyweights of Detroit. The numbers on this next car defy logic, and the way it generates its power is going to leave every enthusiast questioning what they thought they knew about efficiency. The silence of the electric revolution is about to be broken by a sound that many thought was extinct: the high-frequency hum of a twin-rotor engine. For over a decade, Mazda enthusiasts have been surviving on rumors and concept sketches, but in 2026, the wait officially ends with the production debut of the Mazda iconic SP. This is not just a new sports car. It is a case study in how a relatively small manufacturer can out-engineer the giants by refusing to follow the herd. While every other brand is stuffing 2-ton battery packs into their performance cars, Mazda has doubled down on a technology that was once written off as a reliability nightmare and an emissions disaster. Imagine an enthusiast named Marcus in 2026. He grew up watching FDRX-7s dominate the drift scene and the 787B scream down the Mulsanne Straight at Le Mans. To Marcus, the modern EV landscape feels sterile. He wants the instant torque of an electric motor, but he misses the mechanical soul of a combustion engine. The iconic SP solves this existential crisis through a revolutionary two-rotor rotary EV system. In this setup, the rotary engine does not actually drive the wheels. Instead, it acts as a compact, high-output generator that charges a lithium-ion battery on the fly. This is a series hybrid architecture, but unlike the utilitarian systems found in economy cars, this one is tuned for a maximum output of 365 horsepower. The engineering brilliance of the 2026 iconic SP starts with its packaging. Because a rotary engine is significantly more compact than a traditional reciprocating piston engine, Mazda designers were able to achieve a hood line that is impossibly low, lower than almost any other car on the road today. This creates a front midship layout where the heavy mechanical components are tucked behind the front axle, resulting in a near-perfect 50-50 weight distribution. Step by step, this layout transforms the handling dynamics. When Marcus enters a sharp corner on a canyon road, the car doesn't resist the turn-in. It rotates around its center of gravity with a precision that makes a 4,000-pound electric sedan feel like a freight train by comparison. Let's dive into the technical data that makes this 2026 model a masterclass in efficiency. The new Skyactiv-R rotary engine features a displacement equivalent to roughly 1.6 liters, but its true value lies in its fuel flexibility. In 2026, as the world moves toward carbon neutrality, this engine is designed to run on a variety of sustainable fuels, including hydrogen and carbon-neutral synthetic e-fuels. Historical trends showed that early rotary engines suffered from poor apex seal longevity and high oil consumption. Mazda has addressed this in the 2026 iteration by using advanced ceramic chrome coatings on the rotor housings and a redesigned lubrication system that significantly reduces friction and wear. The potential outcome is a rotary heart that maintains the high revving character enthusiasts love while meeting the stringent emissions standards of the late 2020s. The weight of the 2026 iconic SP is perhaps its most shocking statistic. In an era where the average sports car is ballooning toward 4,000 pounds due to battery weight, the iconic SP targets a curb weight of approximately 3,200 pounds. Mazda achieved this by using a smaller, more energy-dense battery pack. Because the onboard rotary generator can provide a continuous stream of power, the car doesn't need to carry 1,500 pounds of lithium just to achieve a respectable range. This lightweight approach ripples through every performance metric. It allows for smaller, lighter brakes, more responsive suspension tuning, and a 0 to 60 time in the low 4-second range that feels visceral rather than clinical. The design of the 2026 production model stays remarkably true to the concept that shocked the Tokyo Mobility Show. It features a minimalist aesthetic that Mazda calls the joy of driving. The pop-up headlights have been reimagined for the 2020s. Instead of a heavy mechanical flip-up unit, they utilize a slender LED module that sits behind a motorized cover, preserving the sleek aerodynamics when not in use. The interior is equally focused, utilizing sustainable materials like BioWeave biocomposites derived from plant fibers and recycled oyster shells from Hiroshima. It is a cabin that feels high-tech but remains analog in its ergonomics, featuring a digital instrument cluster that prioritizes a large central tachometer, a nod to the car's rotary heritage. But the real magic of the iconic SP in 2026 is its dual personality. For the daily commute, it can operate in pure electric mode, providing a silent, smooth experience that is perfect for urban environments. However, the moment you find an open stretch of road and engage the performance mode, the rotary generator fires up. It doesn't just provide power, it provides an auditory experience. Mazda engineers have carefully tuned the exhaust note of the twin-rotor system to provide a mechanical soundtrack that builds in intensity with the vehicle's speed. It bridges the gap between the silent future and the screaming past, offering a solution for the driver who refuses to choose between sustainability and soul. As we look at the potential outcomes of this launch, it is clear that Mazda is repositioning itself as the premium, enthusiast-focused alternative to the mass-market EV giants. The iconic SP is expected to carry a price tag in the $70,000 to $90,000 range, putting it in direct competition with the Toyota Supra and the higher trims of the Nissan Z. But the Mazda offers something those cars cannot: a vision of the future where the internal combustion engine isn't a relic of the past, but a high-tech partner in a new era of electrification. The return of the rotary is just the beginning of the 2026 performance shift. While Mazda is focused on the purest sports car experience, another manufacturer is taking the concept of the luxury sedan and turning it into a high-stakes experiment in artificial intelligence and structural transparency. This next vehicle on our list is a car that doesn't just have a sunroof. It has a roof that can change its opacity based on your mood, and a dashboard that doesn't have a single physical screen. We are moving from the mechanical soul of the rotary to the digital consciousness of the most advanced luxury sedan ever produced in the United States. In the next part, we are going to explore a vehicle that is literally watching you as much as you are watching it, and how its arrival is about to make every current luxury interior look like a museum exhibit. Get ready for the car that is turning the traditional driving experience into a fully immersive augmented reality. The shift from mechanical luxury to digital immersion is best exemplified by a vehicle that essentially functions as a hand-built, rolling sculpture of silicon and glass. Imagine if a driver named Avery is navigating the congested streets of Manhattan in 2026. In any other car, the towering skyscrapers and gray pavement would feel like a cage. But in the 2026 Cadillac Celestiq, the environment is whatever Avery wants it to be. This is made possible by the world's first 4-zone smart glass roof. Using suspended particle device technology, each of the 4 passengers can independently adjust the transparency of the roof above their head. If Avery wants to see the stars while the passenger in the back wants total shade for a nap, the glass can transition from nearly 100% clear to a deep, opaque tint at the touch of a digital slider. This is not just a sunroof. It is an active atmospheric control system that alters the very mood of the cabin. But the real disruption happens the moment you look at the dashboard. In historical trends, luxury was defined by the quality of the leather and the weight of the metal knobs. In 2026, the Celestiq redefines this with a 55-inch diagonal advanced LED display that runs the entire width of the car from pillar to pillar. It is not a series of screens hidden behind a frame. It is a single continuous digital stage. For the driver, this means a clutter-free environment where only the most critical data is projected into their field of vision. For the front passenger, it includes an active privacy shield that allows them to watch high-definition content or browse the web without the driver being able to see the screen, eliminating a major source of driver distraction. The engineering supporting this digital experience is the highest-performing iteration of the Ultium platform to date. The 2026 Celestiq features a 111 kilowatt-hour battery pack that powers a dual-motor all-wheel drive system, generating an estimated 600 horsepower and 640 pound-feet of torque. Step by step, the performance is managed by a suite of technologies that make this massive sedan handle with the grace of a much smaller vehicle. It utilizes Magnetic Ride Control 4.0, which reads the road surface 1,000 times per second and adjusts the damping of each wheel individually. Case studies of early test prototypes showed that this system can virtually eliminate the sensation of crossing expansion joints or hitting potholes, providing a ride quality that is often described as cloud-like. This is further enhanced by active rear steering, which can turn the rear wheels up to 3.5 degrees to either shrink the turning circle in tight city corners or improve stability during high-speed lane changes on the interstate. The Celestiq is also the vanguard for GM's Ultra Cruise technology in 2026. This is a significant evolution over the standard Super Cruise system. It utilizes a combination of cameras, short and long-range radars, and LiDAR sensors to provide 360-degree coverage around the vehicle. Potential outcomes for the 2026 owner include hands-free driving on over 2 million miles of paved roads across the United States, covering 95% of all driving scenarios. Whether it is navigating a complex intersection or merging into high-speed traffic, the car's central computing brain processes billions of data points per second to ensure a smooth, human-like driving profile. For a buyer like Avery, this turns a stressful commute into a period of productive relaxation. However, the 2026 luxury landscape is not just about the ultra-exclusive, $340,000 Cadillac. The technology is trickling down at a rapid pace, as seen in the 2026 Audi A6 e-tron. Audi has completely abandoned the internal combustion A6 in favor of a sportback design built on the Premium Platform Electric, or PPE. This platform allows for a staggering aerodynamic efficiency, with a drag coefficient of just 0.21. In 2026, where every mile of range is a competitive advantage, this streamlined shape allows the A6 e-tron to target an EPA-estimated range of nearly 390 miles on a single charge. Audi's contribution to the digital stage is the MMI panoramic display, a curved OLED unit that integrates an 11.9-inch virtual cockpit and a 14.5-inch touchscreen. But the true innovation in 2026 is the second-generation augmented reality head-up display. Unlike earlier versions that projected a small box of info, this system uses the entire windshield as a canvas. Imagine you are driving through a dense fog in the Pacific Northwest. The AR HUD uses infrared sensors to detect the edges of the road and the position of other vehicles, projecting high-contrast outlines directly onto the glass where the objects actually exist in the physical world. It feels less like driving and more like operating a high-end flight simulator. The A6 e-tron also introduces a 10.9-inch passenger display that is seamlessly integrated into the dashboard, mirroring the philosophy we see in the Celestiq, but at a much more accessible price point. The lighting technology has also reached a new level of sophistication. The 2026 model features second-generation digital OLED taillights that can actually communicate with other road users. Using a series of 450 individual segments, the lights can display warning symbols to cars behind you if they detect an accident or a hazard ahead, effectively turning the car's exterior into a communication interface. Technically, the A6 e-tron utilizes an 800-volt charging system that can accept up to 270 kilowatts of DC fast charging. This allows the battery to go from 10% to 80% in just 21 minutes. For the American buyer, this is the tipping point where an electric sedan becomes a viable primary vehicle for long-distance travel. The dual-motor Quattro version provides 456 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of 4.3 seconds, ensuring that the move to electrification does not come at the expense of the performance Audi is known for. What we are witnessing in 2026 is the total convergence of the automotive and tech industries. A car is no longer just a way to get from point A to point B. It is a personalized digital sanctuary. We are seeing a move away from the tablet-stuck to the dash look of the early 2020s toward a more integrated, holistic approach to interior design. The materials are also shifting. In both the Celestiq and the A6 e-tron, we see the extensive use of mycelium-based leathers and recycled ocean plastics that feel more premium than the traditional hides they replace. The implications of these vehicles go far beyond the luxury segment. The software architectures being pioneered by Cadillac and Audi in 2026 will eventually find their way into every affordable sedan and SUV on the market. We are watching the birth of the software-defined vehicle in its final polished form. But as the interior becomes more digital, the exterior of the next vehicle on our list is going in a completely different direction. While the luxury sedans are getting sleeker and more transparent, there is a brand new entrant in the American market that looks like it belongs on a lunar colony. It is a vehicle that has abandoned the traditional box-on-wheels SUV shape for something far more aggressive, utilizing a stainless steel exoskeleton and a performance profile that challenges everything we know about physics. In the next part, we are going to dive into the most polarizing vehicle release of 2026, exploring how it plans to revolutionize the midsize SUV market with a design that is either the future of transportation or a massive tactical error. We are talking about a machine that can withstand a sledgehammer blow and still hit 60 miles per hour faster than a Porsche 911. If you have ever seen a sledgehammer bounce off the side of a vehicle without leaving a mark, you have witnessed the 2026 Tesla Cybertruck in its most refined production form. But in 2026, the story is no longer about the shock of its appearance. It is about the cold, hard data of its performance on American soil. We are currently seeing a historical trend where the Cybertruck is not just a niche plaything for tech executives, but a legitimate contender in the high-performance SUV and truck market. For a character like Elias, whom we met earlier, the 2026 Cyberbeast variant represents a level of physics-defying acceleration that makes every other internal combustion vehicle on the road feel like a relic. The 2026 Cyberbeast utilizes a tri-motor all-wheel drive system that produces a staggering 845 horsepower. When you put your foot down, the potential outcome is a 0 to 60 mph sprint in just 2.6 seconds. To put that into perspective, that is faster than most models of the Porsche 911. But the engineering feat is not just the speed. It is the fact that this performance comes from a vehicle wrapped in an ultra-hard 30X cold-rolled stainless steel exoskeleton. In 2026, Tesla has mastered the manufacturing of these planar surfaces, reducing the panel gaps that plagued early 2024 models. This structural skin is not just for show. It eliminates the need for a traditional internal frame in many areas, reducing weight while providing a level of dent and corrosion resistance that is unheard of in the industry. Step by step, the 2026 Cybertruck has also solved the range anxiety issue through the official rollout of the Range Extender battery pack. By installing this optional unit in the truck's bed, owners can now achieve a total range of over 470 miles. For the American long-haul driver, this is the magic number that finally makes electric trucking viable across state lines. Furthermore, the 2026 model year introduces the version 12.5 of full self-driving, which leverages an end-to-end neural network to navigate complex urban environments with a level of smoothness that mimics human intuition. Imagine if you are driving through the winding hills of San Francisco. The car no longer relies on hard-coded rules, but learns from millions of miles of human driving data to anticipate the movements of cyclists and pedestrians. But as polarizing as the Cybertruck remains, it is facing its first legitimate threat from a company that has taken a completely opposite approach to design. While the Tesla is a brutalist wedge, the 2026 Lucid Gravity is a masterclass in aerodynamic grace. Lucid has managed to create a 3-row SUV with a drag coefficient of just 0.24, making it the most aerodynamic luxury SUV in the world. For the American family, this efficiency translates into a potential outcome of over 440 miles of range from a battery pack that is significantly smaller and lighter than its competitors. The engineering under the Lucid Gravity is a case study in miniaturization. Lucid's proprietary electric motors are so compact they could fit inside a standard carry-on suitcase, yet they produce up to 800 horsepower in the Grand Touring trim. This allows for a massive amount of interior space. Imagine if you are a driver named Sarah in 2026, taking 6 passengers on a ski trip to Tahoe. In a traditional SUV, the third row is usually a cramped space for children. In the Gravity, the packaging allowed Lucid to create a sliding second row and a third row that can comfortably accommodate full-grown adults. This is paired with a 900-volt electrical architecture that can add 200 miles of range in just 15 minutes. Lucid has also introduced the Clearview cockpit for 2026, which features a 34-inch curved 6K OLED display that floats above the steering wheel. Unlike the Tesla, which moves all controls to a central screen, Lucid has maintained a balance with the pilot panel, a secondary touch interface that sits lower and closer to the driver's hand for quick adjustments to climate and suspension settings. The Gravity also features an optional sanctuary mode, which uses the 22-speaker Surreal Sound Pro system and the ambient lighting to create a multisensory environment designed to reduce the stress of traffic. It can simulate the sounds and visuals of a forest or a rainy afternoon, turning the 405 freeway into a temporary meditation retreat. The real battle of 2026, however, is being fought in the midsize segment. This is where the 2026 Rivian R2 is poised to become the most important vehicle in the company's history. If the R1 was the expensive halo car, the R2 is the vehicle for the American masses. Starting at an estimated $45,000, the R2 brings Rivian's adventure-focused DNA to a much more accessible price point. It features the signature stadium headlights and a rugged, boxy aesthetic that has become a status symbol in suburban America. What makes the R2 a 2026 standout is its focus on open-air freedom. Rivian has engineered a unique drop-glass rear window that slides completely into the tailgate, allowing for a seamless connection between the interior and the exterior. If you are hauling surfboards or lumber, you don't need a roof rack. You just slide them through the back. This is paired with the new battery chemistry that utilizes 4,695 cylindrical cells, offering a range of over 300 miles, even in the base configuration. The R2 also debuts the new steering wheel with integrated haptic control dials, allowing the driver to cycle through menus without ever looking away from the road. The 2026 R2 is also a pioneer in edge computing. It features 11 cameras and 5 radars, but the processing is done locally on the vehicle's high-performance AI chip, reducing latency and improving the responsiveness of the hands-free driving system on highways. Case studies from Rivian's beta testing show that this localized processing allows the vehicle to make safety-critical decisions, like emergency braking for a sudden obstacle, faster than a cloud-based system ever could. What we see in these 3 vehicles, the Cybertruck, the Gravity, and the R2, is a complete fracturing of the SUV market. You have the indestructible exoskeleton of the Tesla, the aerodynamic efficiency of the Lucid, and the adventurous utility of the Rivian. Each is a bet on what the American consumer will value most as we move into the second half of the decade. But as these startups fight for dominance, the sleeping giants of the industry are finally waking up. One of the most famous luxury brands in the world is about to release a vehicle that ignores the battery race entirely in favor of a technology that was supposed to be impossible for a production car. We are moving from the world of lithium-ion to a world where your car might actually be powered by the most abundant element in the universe. In the next part, we are going to dive into the first production hydrogen-electric luxury crossover and why its arrival is causing a massive shift in how the government is thinking about the future of the American energy grid. This isn't just a new engine. It is a new way of fueling our lives. The shift from lithium to the most abundant element in the universe is no longer a laboratory dream. In 2026, it is a showroom reality that is forcing a total reevaluation of the American energy grid. While the majority of the industry has been locked in a brutal arms race over battery size and charging speeds, a select group of manufacturers has been quietly perfecting the hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle, or FCEV. The arrival of these machines in 2026 represents a third path for the American driver, one that offers the environmental benefits of an electric car with the refueling speed of a traditional gasoline engine. But the true disruptor of 2026 isn't just a hydrogen car. It is the world's first production vehicle to combine hydrogen fuel cells with a plug-in battery. Imagine a driver named Sarah, a high-performing real estate developer in Southern California. Sarah loves the idea of zero emissions, but her schedule is dictated by back-to-back meetings across 3 counties. She doesn't have 40 minutes to sit at a DC fast charger, but she also worries about the limited number of hydrogen stations currently operational in the United States. The 2026 Honda CR-V FCV solves this specific, high-stakes problem by introducing a dual-power architecture. It is the only vehicle in the 2026 lineup that allows Sarah to plug in at home for her daily 29-mile commute using pure battery power, while maintaining a 270-mile total range powered by compressed hydrogen gas for her longer treks. The engineering under the hood of the 2026 CR-V FCV is a masterclass in collaborative innovation. The fuel cell module itself was co-developed by Honda and General Motors at their joint venture facility in Michigan. By leveraging the manufacturing scale of both giants, they have reduced the cost of the fuel cell system by 2/3 compared to the previous generation found in the Honda Clarity. Step by step, the system works by passing hydrogen through a proton exchange membrane where it combines with oxygen from the air to create electricity. There is no combustion. There are no moving pistons. The only byproduct exiting the tailpipe is pure, distilled water vapor. The technical data for the 2026 model is compelling for the suburban buyer. The electric motor produces 174 horsepower and 229 pound-feet of torque, providing the smooth linear acceleration that has become the hallmark of the CR-V line. But unlike a standard EV, the CR-V carries 2 10,000 psi hydrogen tanks. In a case study of refueling efficiency, Sarah can pull up to a hydrogen station and completely fill those tanks in approximately 3 minutes. This is a potential outcome that battery electric vehicles simply cannot match in 2026, regardless of how many kilowatts the charger provides. Furthermore, the 2026 model comes equipped with a 1,500-watt power outlet, allowing Sarah to use the car's fuel cell as a mobile generator to power her laptop, lights, or even a small refrigerator during a site visit or a blackout. However, Honda isn't the only player in this 2026 hydrogen offensive. Toyota, the industry's most vocal proponent of a multi-pathway future, has updated the 2026 Toyota Mirai. While the 2026 Mirai maintains its sleek, rear-wheel drive sedan silhouette, it now features a refined fuel cell stack that delivers 182 horsepower and a class-leading EPA estimated range of 402 miles. For the 2026 model year, Toyota has addressed the primary barrier to entry by including $15,000 or 6 years of complimentary hydrogen fuel with every purchase. This is a strategic move to offset the current high cost of hydrogen at the pump, which has fluctuated wildly as the infrastructure scales up. But the real technology powerhouse of the 2026 hydrogen segment is the second-generation Hyundai Nexo. While the previous Nexo was a low-volume experiment, the 2026 model is a full-scale production SUV that takes its design cues from the futuristic Initium concept. Hyundai has overhauled the powertrain, increasing the total system output to 255 horsepower, a massive jump from the previous 161. This reduces the 0 to 62 mph time to a more competitive 7.8 seconds. But the statistic that is causing the most conversation in 2026 is the targeted driving range of over 435 miles per tank. Hyundai has achieved this through a new high-density storage system that fits 354-liter hydrogen tanks into the chassis without compromising the 993 liters of cargo space. The 2026 Nexo also debuts the Art of Steel design language, which uses high-strength materials to create a multi-skeleton structure designed specifically to protect the hydrogen tanks in the event of a high-speed collision. This addresses the historical trend of consumer skepticism regarding the safety of pressurized gas. In 2026, these tanks are engineered to be stronger than the vehicle's frame itself, capable of withstanding extreme temperatures and mechanical stress that would destroy a traditional gasoline tank. Inside, the Nexo features a dual 12.3-inch curved display and generative AI-powered voice recognition that can handle complex commands like find the nearest green hydrogen station with an available pump. The 2026 arrival of these vehicles is timed perfectly with a massive shift in U.S. policy. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, billions of dollars in tax credits are being funneled into the production of green hydrogen, hydrogen created using renewable energy like wind and solar. This is a critical distinction in 2026. The goal is to move away from blue hydrogen derived from natural gas. As these production hubs or hydrogen hubs begin to come online across the United States, we are seeing the beginning of a national refueling network that extends beyond the borders of California. For the American economy, the potential outcomes of this hydrogen pivot are profound. CEVs offer a solution for heavy-duty applications and long-range towing that battery electric vehicles still struggle with due to the sheer weight of the batteries required. A hydrogen fuel cell provides the energy density of a liquid fuel with the efficiency of an electric motor. We are seeing case studies where fleet operators are choosing hydrogen for their 2026 logistics updates because it allows for a 95% uptime, meaning the trucks are on the road moving freight instead of sitting at a charging station. But as impressive as the hydrogen revolution is, there is a catch. In 2026, the cost of the fuel remains the primary bottleneck for the average consumer outside of California. While the technology works flawlessly, the infrastructure is still in its infancy. This is why the Honda CR-V CEV's plug-in capability is such a brilliant tactical move. It acknowledges the reality of 2026, that we are in a transition period where flexibility is more valuable than purity. As we look at the 2026 landscape, it is clear that the definition of an electric car is expanding. It is no longer just about the battery, it is about the energy carrier. Whether it is a plug-in hydrogen hybrid or a long-range fuel cell sedan, the options for emissions-free driving are becoming more diverse and more capable. But while the hydrogen cars are focusing on efficiency and refueling speed, the next entry on our list is focusing on something much more visceral. We are moving from the silent scientific world of fuel cells to a vehicle that is being hailed as the last great analog supercar of the decade. This next machine uses a high-revving, naturally aspirated engine that defies every current trend toward downsizing and electrification. In the next part, we are going to dive into a vehicle that sounds like a vintage Formula One car and offers a manual transmission in an era where everyone else has gone digital. This is the car that enthusiasts have been praying for, and its 2026 debut is about to set the collector market on fire. Prepare for a deep dive into the engineering of the ultimate driver's car. The transition from the clinical precision of hydrogen fuel cells to the raw mechanical violence of a high-revving internal combustion engine is the ultimate sensory whiplash of 2026. While the rest of the world is obsessing over kilowatt-hours and charging curves, a small but fiercely dedicated group of engineers in Stuttgart and Bowling Green has decided to give the gasoline engine one final, glorious standing ovation. We are entering the realm of the 2026 analog heroes, vehicles that prioritize the weight of a gear lever and the vibration of a steering rack over the silence of a battery. This is where the 2026 Porsche 911 GT3, specifically the 992.2 generation, enters the stage as a defiant middle finger to the inevitability of electrification. Imagine a driver named Julian in 2026. He is a purist who believes that a car should be a partner, not an appliance. Julian watches as the 911 Turbo S transitions into a 701 horsepower T-hybrid monster. An incredible feat of engineering, but one that adds complexity and weight. Julian, however, is waiting for the GT3. Why? Because for the 2026 model year, Porsche has made the radical decision to keep the GT3 entirely naturally aspirated. There are no turbos, no electric motors, and no heavy battery packs. Just a 4.0-liter flat six that screams all the way to a stratospheric 9,000 revolutions per minute. The technical data behind the 2026 GT3 reveals a masterclass in weight management. In an era where the average sports car has ballooned past 3,600 pounds, the GT3 remains a lightweight outlier at approximately 3,200 pounds. Porsche achieved this through the extensive use of carbon fiber reinforced plastic for the hood and the rear wing. But the real step-by-step innovation is in the aerodynamics. The 992.2 update introduces a revised underbody and a new front diffuser that significantly increases front-end grip without adding the drag of a larger wing. For the American track enthusiast, this means a potential outcome of more consistent lap times at circuits like Laguna Seca or Road Atlanta, where front-end precision is the difference between a record and a spin. The most significant update for 2026 is the refined 6-speed GT Sports manual transmission. While the 7-speed PDK dual clutch remains the choice for those chasing every millisecond, the manual has been updated with a shorter throw and even more precise gates. It is a mechanical tactile experience that is becoming extinct. When Julian downshifts into a second-gear hairpin, he isn't just pulling a paddle. He is physically engaging a set of gears in a dance that has been perfected over 60 years of 911 evolution. The engine itself, while maintaining its 502 horsepower, has seen a slight reduction in peak torque to 331 pound-feet to meet the latest US emissions cycles. Yet it remains the most visceral power unit on the market. But if the GT3 is a scalpel, the next vehicle on our list is a sledgehammer made of carbon fiber and lightning. The 2026 Chevrolet Corvette ZR1 is not just an American supercar. It is a global predator. For the first time in history, a production Corvette has crossed the 1,000 horsepower threshold. The LT7 engine is a 5.5-liter twin-turbocharged DOHC V8 with a flat-plane crankshaft. This isn't just a modified Z06 engine. It is a clean-sheet redesign featuring a unique block casting and massive 76mm turbochargers. The data is almost impossible to process: 1,064 horsepower and 828 pound-feet of torque. In a case study of high-speed stability, the 2026 ZR1 features the return of the iconic split window, a design cue not seen since 1963, but here it serves a functional purpose. The carbon fiber spine between the rear windows is part of an elaborate thermal management system designed to extract the massive amount of heat generated by those twin turbos. Imagine Julian's friend, Marcus, taking this machine to a private airstrip. He is looking at a top speed of 233 miles per hour. That is not a typo. The ZR1 is faster than almost any European exotic, costing 5 times as much. To keep this power on the ground, the optional ZTK performance package adds a massive high wing and underbody strakes that generate over 1,200 pounds of downforce at speed. The 2026 ZR1 also solves the problem of stopping 1,064 horsepower. It utilizes a revolutionary carbon ceramic braking system with Alcon 10-piston front calipers. In historical trends, braking at the end of a long straight was often the weak point of American muscle. In 2026, the Corvette ZR1 can decelerate from 180 to 120 miles per hour at a staggering 1.9 G. This is a level of performance that was once reserved for multi-million-dollar hypercars. Yet, inside, the ZR1 remains a Corvette, featuring a dedicated 12.7-inch center console display and a 14-speaker Bose sound system for the drive home from the track. While the Titans fight for the top of the leaderboard, the 2026 Nissan Z Nismo is finally giving enthusiasts the one thing they've been begging for: a 6-speed manual transmission. For the first 2 years of the RZ34 Nismo's life, it was automatic only, a decision that alienated the very purists it was meant to attract. In 2026, Nissan has listened. The Nismo Z now pairs its 420 horsepower twin-turbo V6 with a reinforced manual gearbox and a mechanical limited-slip differential. This isn't just a parts bin swap. The manual has been tuned with a unique Nismo-specific rev-matching algorithm that is significantly more aggressive than the standard Z performance. For the budget-conscious enthusiast, the 2026 Toyota GR86 Yuzu Edition is the current gold standard for affordable fun. Limited to just a few hundred units in the US, the Yuzu Edition comes standard with Brembo brakes and Sachs dampers, components that were previously expensive options. It maintains the 228 horsepower flat-4 engine, but in 2026, Toyota has refined the electronic power steering for even better feedback. Case studies of owner satisfaction show that the GR86 remains the most popular entry point for amateur drifting and autocross in the United States, and the 2026 updates ensure it stays at the top of the heap. We also have to discuss the 2026 Honda Civic Type R. As it approaches a starting price of $50,000, many are asking if a front-wheel drive hatchback can still justify the cost. The data suggests it can. The 2026 Type R remains the fastest front-wheel drive car to ever lap the Nürburgring. Its 315 horsepower 2.0-liter VTEC engine is a masterpiece of thermal efficiency, and for 2026, Honda has updated the LogR data logger to include a real-time tire pressure and temperature monitoring system that integrates directly with your smartphone. It is a car that manages to be a grocery getter on Tuesday and a track weapon on Saturday. What we are seeing in 2026 is a divergence of the enthusiast market. You have the high-tech, high-horsepower monsters like the ZR1 and the purist high-RPM machines like the GT3. Both are successful because they understand that for a certain segment of the American public, the car is an emotional outlet, not just a logistical solution. We are watching the sunset of the pure internal combustion performance car, and these 2026 models are going out with a scream that can be heard for miles. But as impressive as these performance icons are, they are still grounded in the traditional rules of ownership. You buy the car, you drive the car, you maintain the car. But the final vehicle on our list for 2026 is about to change the very concept of what it means to own a vehicle. While the performance cars are looking at the past for inspiration, our final entry is looking at a future where you might not even need to be in the driver's seat. We are talking about a vehicle that has no steering wheel, no pedals, and a design that is so radical it was once thought to be a hoax. In the final part of our masterclass, we are going to dive into the official launch of the most disruptive vehicle in the history of the world, the autonomous robotaxi that is about to make the concept of a driver's license obsolete. This is the end of the road as we know it, and the implications for the American suburbs are nothing short of monumental. Prepare for the ultimate reveal of the car that changes everything. The final shift we are witnessing in 2026 is not just a change in how we power our vehicles, but a fundamental dissolution of the relationship between the American citizen and the steering wheel. For over a century, the driver's license has been a rite of passage, a symbol of freedom and autonomy. But as we reach the midpoint of 2026, the arrival of the Tesla Cybercab is signaling that the era of personal driving may be reaching its final chapter. This is not a concept car or a far-off vision. In February 2026, the first production-spec Cybercab officially rolled off the assembly line at Gigafactory Texas in Austin. It is a two-door, two-seat coupe that is missing the two most fundamental components of every car we have discussed so far. There is no steering wheel, and there are no pedals. Imagine a commuter named Leo in 2026. Leo lives in a suburb of Dallas and works downtown. Traditionally, Leo would spend 90 minutes a day fighting traffic, his foot hovering over the brake pedal, his stress levels rising with every lane change. Today, Leo opens the Tesla Robotaxi app. Within 4 minutes, a silver unpainted Cybercab pulls up to his driveway. The butterfly doors glide upward automatically, revealing a cabin that looks more like a high-end lounge than a vehicle. There is a single massive 18.5-inch touchscreen in the center, 2 deep bucket seats, and a vast expanse of legroom where the dashboard used to be. Leo sits down, taps his destination, and the car merges into morning traffic with a level of precision and smoothness that no human driver can replicate. The engineering masterclass behind the Cybercab is a lesson in radical optimization. Tesla's goal for 2026 was to drive the cost of autonomous transport down to a level where it is cheaper than a subsidized bus ticket. To achieve this, they stripped away everything that wasn't strictly necessary for a point-to-point urban trip. The 2026 Cybercab features a relatively small 35 kilowatt-hour battery pack. In historical trends, we've seen manufacturers chasing 100 kilowatt-hour monsters for range, but the Cybercab is designed for high-utilization urban loops. Because it is incredibly lightweight and features an ultra-low drag coefficient, aided by the lack of side mirrors and a rear window, it achieves a staggering efficiency of over 5.5 miles per kilowatt-hour. Step by step, the most controversial engineering choice is the removal of the charging port. The 2026 Cybercab utilizes 100% inductive charging. When the vehicle's battery runs low, it autonomously navigates to a high-speed wireless charging pad embedded in the floor of a Tesla service hub. It parks, the energy transfers through the air at over 90% efficiency, and the car is back on the road in minutes. There are no cables to wear out, no moving parts to break, and no human intervention required. This is a potential outcome that fundamentally changes the economics of fleet management. A single operator can manage a fleet of hundreds of Cybercabs without ever needing a technician to physically plug them in. The data regarding the 2026 robotaxi economy is equally disruptive. Case studies of early pilots in Austin and the San Francisco Bay Area show that the cost per mile for a Cybercab ride is hovering around 30 to 40 cents. Compare that to the average cost of owning a private vehicle in the US, which is currently over 70 cents per mile when you factor in insurance, maintenance, and depreciation. For someone like Leo, the potential outcome is a savings of thousands of dollars a year, leading many to question why they are paying a monthly note for a car that sits idle in a parking garage 95% of the time. But Tesla is not alone in this 2026 autonomous gold rush. The competition has pivoted to meet this threat with very different hardware philosophies. Waymo has officially deployed its next-generation Ojai vehicle, developed in partnership with Zeekr. Unlike the Tesla, which relies exclusively on vision and AI, the Waymo Ojai utilizes a multi-layered sensor suite including 6 LiDAR units and high-resolution radar. In 2026, Waymo is operating in over 20 U.S. cities, including a massive expansion into the snowy climates of Detroit and Minneapolis, proving that their hardware can handle the environmental variables that still challenge vision-only systems. The Ojai is a 4-passenger pod with a low floor and wide sliding doors, prioritizing accessibility for families and riders with disabilities in a way the 2-seat Tesla does not. Furthermore, 2026 marks the first year that Zoox, owned by Amazon, has integrated its purpose-built robot Axis into the Uber app in Las Vegas. The Zoox vehicle is a bidirectional carriage-style pod, where passengers face each other. It features 4-wheel steering, allowing it to navigate the tightest alleys of the Las Vegas Strip with ease. The partnership with Uber signifies a massive shift in the market. We are seeing the emergence of an autonomous transport as a service model, where the distinction between a private car and public transit is beginning to blur. The implications for American infrastructure in 2026 are monumental. We are seeing the first signs of the great reclamation of space. If you no longer need to park your car at work, the massive parking structures in downtown Los Angeles and Chicago can be converted into housing or green space. If your car can drop you off at the front door and then go find a charging pad 5 miles away, the suburban garage is no longer a necessity. In 2026, we are seeing homeowners converting their garages into home offices or additional bedrooms, fundamentally altering the real estate value of the American home. However, the 2026 rollout is not without its hurdles. The Self-Drive Act of 2026, introduced to Congress earlier this year, is currently the center of a high-stakes debate over federal safety standards. Because the Cybercab and the Zoox pod do not have traditional controls, they require specific exemptions from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. We are watching a historical trend where the technology is moving significantly faster than the law. While the data shows that autonomous miles are significantly safer than human-driven miles on a per-million-mile basis, every high-profile incident in 2026 is met with intense public scrutiny and calls for more stringent data reporting. As we conclude this deep dive into 2026, it is clear that we are at the end of the automotive world as we once knew it. We have looked at the return of the rugged Scout, the screaming high RPM engines of Porsche, the hydrogen-powered efficiency of Honda, and finally, the driverless pods of Tesla and Waymo. The 2026 model year is the moment where these divergent paths have finally converged. You now have the choice between the ultimate driver's machine and the ultimate mobility service. The question is no longer just about which car you want to buy. It is about how you want to live. Are you the person who wants to master the 9,000 revolutions per minute shift of a GT3? Or are you the person who wants to reclaim 2 hours of your day in the back of a Cybercab? The decisions you make in 2026 will dictate the shape of our cities and the safety of our roads for the next 50 years. This hasn't just been a look at the newest cars on the market. It has been a look at the final evolution of the American road. The transition is happening right now, outside your window. The only thing left to decide is whether you are going to be behind the wheel or if you are finally ready to let go.